Okay, so you had some questions. Let's start with those, and then we'll work our way into the next lesson. Maybe it'll be next hour. My laptop's still going slow. Joyce, what do you want?
I was also stuck on number 12, trying to get the results to show the ands without showing random house. I tried the space before the percent sign, after the percent signs between.
All right, so we want to, what do we want to select on that one? We just do select star. You can change that from, this is from books, was it? No, publishers. Publishers, where the publisher name.
And I use like, and then
The like, quotes,
sequence of percent sign
percent and percent, quotes, semicolon, right?
Yep, that's what mine looks like, and it's not right.
That's true. Good grief. It's a simple query. There we go. So it works okay for that first one, right?
It's not supposed to show random house because it's just supposed to show the ands and not the ands within the word.
It's good here. This one's screwing it up.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Said it.
Yeah, I think it's just the sequence of percent signs, spaces, and I'm
Okay.
not exactly sure. I've tried different things, but it didn't got the word and the word random.
Right. That's the problem. The question says, I don't want the word and. I only want the publishers whose name contains the word and. Now she said space. These ands, I guess I should do it for the recording, these ands contain the word and, right? I mean, these are the word. This one isn't, that's got the and embedded. What's different? What's different about this word and those? The space. Where's the space? Before and after the and. So here?
I think I tried that and I didn't get it to work unless I just did something wrong and got
Here?
frustrated.
That ensures that the word and has spaces on both sides. I don't know what you didn't do or did do, but that's the answer. Now Tyler was asking me, where is it in your notes? It's not in my notes. Okay. It's like saying, where's the one that tells me how to find the publisher plume if I'm looking for it? I can't tell you every single tool, but I can't tell you every single query in my notes that you might come across. However, I can give you the tools, and you have the tools here. What you needed to do, and it's often a challenge, right? It's like programming, right? I give you the tools, but then you got to use them for the right things in the right time and just the right order. Right? Same thing here. I gave you the tools, the like. It has the word like in it. But in order to make it a word, you designate the spaces around it. The spaces, what if it's at the end of the sentence? It's not gonna be. Who creates, that doesn't happen. What if it's at the beginning of the sentence? It'll probably still have a space in front of it. But here, we want the word and when we use the word and, it's usually a conjunction, like Simon and Schuster. It's gonna be in the middle and there's gonna be spaces on both sides. It's that spaces on both sides that gets, and it really in this one, if you just had a space in the front, it would be good enough. Except I sent a message to Tyler saying if you said just percent and percent the way we started, that matches the word Andy, right? This is where you started. This matches the word random, obviously. It matches the word Andy because percent sign can represent nothing. So this could be a Y. It matches the word land, where this is the L and that percent sign is nothing. The only way to get this to treat it as a word is put spaces around it. Good. What else? Tim, you get another one? Is that the only one? That was it?
I guess the only other question is, how do you want us to send these to you? Like 3 separate SQL files?
1 or 3 doesn't matter. As long as I much prefer SQL files, and you're supposed to have numbers on top of these, right? So up here you would have Here's another shortcut. You can do a pound pound. That's like an inline comment. Put spaces in between each question. That really makes life easier for me when I'm grading it. But if it's one file or three, it doesn't matter. Bob?
I still have problems with the parentheses around the word city.
Okay.
Products for the concatenation.
All right.
I couldn't get those fancy things.
So what's the question number?
It is number 23 in Premier Products.
23, Premier Products. So that means I got to choose my Premier Products database.
I tried all kinds of series once again of quotes.
All right.
Commas.
So we want to select, what am I selecting?
You are selecting order ID, I'm sorry, select concat, and then the parentheses, customer name, comma, space, quotes.
Customer name and city, right?
Yeah, customer name and city.
Just to get the basics down here. As, let's call it combined from TBL, is that publishers? No, it's Premier Products, so that's customers. But that's the basics, right? No, not quite right. My error code says what? Oh, come on. Give me the X. There we go. TBL customers doesn't exist. Did I take the customers out? Is it just customers?
I just have customers.
Yep, just customers.
Oh, TBL, yes.
Okay. And combine, this is chopped off, so let's stretch it, and it's smushed them, right? So now we're going back to programming logic. I want to unsmush them. How do I separate them, Bob?
I have
Forget the parentheses for right now. Let's build this in pieces. How do I separate them?
I have after customer name, I have a comma, a space, and then I'll set of quotes.
Comma, space, like that?
Yep. Oh, well, I just have one set of quotes. I don't have two. Maybe that's
Apostrophes? Are you using apostrophes or quotes?
I have just one set of double quotes.
One, well, that's what I had, wasn't it? One set of double quotes like that.
Yeah.
And a comma.
And then a comma.
What's between the quotes?
Between the quotes, nothing.
Okay, that gives you the empty string. No, it's not a space. That's the empty string.
That's the empty string.
The empty string is nothing. If I run this one, what do I get? Same results. Because this is put nothing in between. If I want something in between, I put a space in between there. Okay, now there we go. Now they're separated. What else do you want? What Bob answered, because she's the one stuck with it.
And is there a space after that then?
These spaces here don't matter.
Those spaces there don't matter.
They don't matter, okay, because all they're doing is separating. I have a list of 3 strings right now. Right.
Okay.
And so if you like spaces after your commas, put them in.
That's confusing.
Yeah. And the other thing you could do is pretend it was C#. I don't know how fresh that is to your minds, but remember we can do this in C#, right? We can't do it here. But you could do the C# thing and say, I want this concatenated to a space concatenated to that. Looks familiar? Okay. And then all you have to do when you're done is replace the plus signs with commas.
Oh, okay.
And you're done.
All right.
Okay. So let's keep going. What do you want in front of the city?
After the second plus sign, then it would be the first set of parentheses enclosed within quotes.
Okay. So do you want to, there's 2 ways we could do this, and this is the bad way. We could do this, right? But that's a literal concatenated to a literal. Why don't we just do this? The stuff in quotes can be as many characters as you want. So this says, give me the customer name, concatenate to that a space followed by a parentheses, literally those characters. So I can combine those. A very common mistake happened in programming logic beginning all the time is each character gets its own little string. And no, you can take those literals and stick them together any which way you want to. And what else do you want? Well, let's see how that turns out. And this is another, this was a clue that I was sharing with most in my programming class. Just build these in pieces. Well, that didn't work very well, did it? Oh, thank you. So I got 0 because it's trying to add. There's my parentheses. What's missing? Bob's still working on it.
I am, sorry.
It's all right. The ending parentheses. So where's that go? After the city. In its own set of quotes again now because it's not attached to any other quotes. What's cool about the concat function is that you can put as many strings inside there as you want to. I think I did the research. You can put numbers in there. It doesn't matter. So if we had somebody's age or if we had the population of the city, we can stick that in there and it'll concatenate anything you put in there. As many as you want, separated by commas. How does it know whether to concatenate 3 things, 4 things, 10 things? Magic. We don't care. Somebody else wrote it. It works. But it's a pretty cool function because you can send it as many pieces as you want. In this case, 4. You get things that can be stuck together. What else? Mm-hmm.
When I was looking up what to do for my own SQL query.
Oh, okay.
I just want to make sure I'm looking on the right page.
Oh.
As far as I don't want to pick an operator, versus a function and do the wrong thing.
Okay.
So I just pulled up what I was looking at. I just want to make
Let's
sure.
just see. I think I suggested to go to dev.mysql.com.
Yep. That's where I'm at.
What do you mean open with a disk mounter? What did I do? Cancel. Oh, it added more junk in here. Sorry. Okay, and I go in here, and it's got a nice handy search box. So you could do functions or function and see what it comes up with. And here's a reference manual, and you could look at some of those functions, the create function, the drop function. Look for one that sounds interesting. And there's tens of pages of them. Maybe if you want to narrow it down, you could say math function or something. The purpose of this exercise is just to get used to some of these online manuals. And if you read this actual thing, it's huge. Right? The manual itself is very, very large. Didn't I say math? Yeah, I did. Use a general index. Maybe you could find something in there, but just kind of look around. And maybe instead of going to the site, here's a function and operator reference. That sounds good. We'll go in there, and there. Oh, there's a ton of functions. Pick one. Pick one. Okay. Pick one that I didn't talk about. That's all I'm asking you to do. Anybody else got questions? Tim's shaking his head no, so that means he's speaking for everybody, so let's move on. No. Nobody else was shaking, so we're good. Today what I want to start talking about is multi-table queries. In this assignment, you did a lot of display in the single table queries. Show the part ID, show the rep ID, or where the rep ID equals 2. Who's 2? We don't know. We could go look it up, right? Because we could do a select star from parts and find out who part number 2 is and get, but why can't I put all that into one query? The answer is you can. It just takes a different set of steps. So what we're going to learn today is how to put these tables together. If I can find my plus sign. There we go. In SQL, it's called joining tables. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to learn how to join tables together. But before we do, on the board, I'm going to switch to the employees table. And I'm just going to draw an entity relationship diagram. I think we talked about that very early on when we started with our SQL. I'm going to draw an entity relationship diagram that represents this database. There are 1, 2, 3, we're going to skip states there are 3 tables. And what we do in an entity relationship diagram is just draw boxes for each table. So there's an employee table, and there are trips, and there are plants. And I know how these are connected, so I'm being a little strategic here on the board. And these are connected. Now what we learned about, and we skipped in this class because it's just more than you need to know, is that when we draw these pictures, there are relationships between these tables. They're joined together. And if we look at the description, remember, was it the rentals table that you did in the build assignment, right? There were car rentals and there were employees. Well, each of those were linked together somehow. Every table in a database, 99.9% of the tables in the database are connected to somebody else. They're very rare that you have this table that just sits out there all by itself that's not related to anybody else. Employees work at plants. Employees take trips. Do plants take trips? No. Do we take trips to plants? No, that's not what we're talking about here. So there's no direct relationship here. But there is a relationship. And again, in the design part of the RDD class, what we learned there is that we can also label these that one employee takes many trips, or it works at one plant, and one plant has many employees. One employee takes many trips, one trip is taken by one employee. Think of this as an airline ticket. It's for one person. And so that's what those ones and M's represent. But what that helps us know is who's the parent here, the one who has many, the one with the one, is the parent. The one with the many is linked to the parent, that's the child. Having this picture comes in very handy. I think somewhere I have pictures like this of Premier Products, Henry Books, and Lexamar Marina. The good news is I just modified your multi-table queries assignment, and Lexamar Marina is not even part of the picture anymore. I took it out. I'm not going to make you do all the same queries I have the software developers do. They need a different level of expertise. So I'm not going to be talking about everything that's in my notes either. A number of it I'm going to skip over. But having this diagram can help you figure out how to make connections. And so I'm going to find those 2 diagrams that I have for Henry Books and Premier Products, and I'll share them with you. If I forget and you're working on the assignments, remind me and I'll email it to you. I just got to find it. I did update the assignment, took out a lot of questions that don't apply to you. I have not updated the result sets yet. So I just got around to modifying the assignment. So if you're looking at the result sets and they don't match, again, send me an email. I forgot to update it. I will do that. All right, back to the notes down here then. If we want to get information from 2 different tables or more, we have to join the tables together. In our SQL command, we have to tell it that the plant table is related to the employees table. You know this. There's nothing in MySQL for MySQL to figure this out. In Access, you might think back to your Microsoft Access class, you created connections, you linked them. You defined the relationships using the relationships window, and once you defined them, then Access remembered them. That doesn't happen in MySQL. Every time you write a query that you need information out of the employee table and the trips table, you need it out of 2. You have to join those tables together. The joins are not remembered. So let's get rid of this. And I have switched to employees. So how do we do this? As it turns out, there's at least 3 different ways to join tables together. I'm going to show you the easy way. I'm going to show you the way not to. I'm not going to show you the way not to do it. I'm just going to tell you not to do it that way. And then I'll show you the one that's in between that you have to use in very rare circumstances. So there's 3 different ways. The 2 most common are using a join. That includes 2 different techniques. And the where, this is the one I don't want you to use. You've already learned about the where clause, right? You said, give me a list of all the people where what? What did you do? In Henry Books, where the branch is number 3. Where clauses are used to filter records. Don't show me the entire table, just show me the records that meet this criteria. That's what the where clause is for in my mind. You can use the where clause to link tables together, but then you also use the where clause to create criteria, and to me that's confusing. So I'm going to ask you to use join to join the tables together. Let's do some examples, and then we'll talk about this stuff up here. Here's the bad stuff. Linking tables using where. This is only for your reference. You shouldn't need it. When you're linking tables together, you should be using join. I can't think of any queries that I have left assigned to you that don't use join. If you use where, I will mark it wrong, even if it works. You can make it work. I just don't think it's the right way to do it. The new language has some new features in it, so we want to do those. Okay, the first thing this says is let's add an employee, Volker Gall, to plant number 1. Let's see if Volker's in mine. It might already be in there. Select star from employees. Or is it TBL employees? Yep. Here it's TBL. Over there it's not. Next year when I don't teach this class, I'm going to make them consistent. Well, let's add a where clause just to demonstrate that. Where the last name equals Gall. Ain't none. Okay, so I'm not in there. Probably not in yours either, right, if you're following along. So now we're going to review our insert command. And we're going to insert into TBL employees. And there's a reason I'm going through this. I'm going to insert into TBL employees some values. This emp ID is not an auto number field. Right, so I don't have to skip it. It's not going to get filled in automatically. I have to fill it in. So the first value I'm going to fill is my employee ID number. And the employee ID number, let's do 65 is one. You need 9 of them, so that many. And then the first name is Volker, and the last name is Gall. Gender is male. Plant ID, according to my notes, put me in plant number 1. Phone number, let's just do null. Hire date, null. Salary, no. 75K sounds good. Union member, 0, no, or false, right? So that should create a new record for me. And down at the bottom, I got my green circle, so now I can do my select star one more time. And there I am. That's just to add a piece of data, because notice right here it says note Volker Gall doesn't show up in my notes. Why not? I haven't done this yet. I want to display a list of each employee and the trips that they've gone on. So as an example, everybody got the insert thing working that's following along? Volker Gall's in there now. Okay. I could say, give me everything from the trips table. And as a review, I can then order by trip date descending. Right? But who are these employees? That's very annoying to have these ID numbers. And imagine if it was an auto number field, it would say 1, 22, 13, 17. What do those numbers mean? Nothing. What those numbers mean, what those numbers are for, is for tying, particularly auto number fields, are for linking these tables together. So now what we're going to do is display this list again, but instead of displaying the employee ID, we're going to display the employee's name and the trip date and the destination. That's stuff from here and the stuff from here. That's exactly the point. It allows us, it is possible for us to gather data from any table, any combination of tables in the database. What we need to do, first of all, is change the star. What I want is the last name and the first name and the trip date and the destination from trips, but first name and last name is not in trips. That's the problem. So that's where we do the join. We can do it with where, but I'm not going to do it with where. So I'm just going to skip right over that. Let's jump ahead here. Here's how we do it with join. There is a command called inner join. There are really two classes, let's call them that, of joins. There's an inner join and there's an outer join, joining tables together. For the homework assignment, for every single question except one, they are all inner joins. I'll explain an outer join later in the notes. For right now, we're going to be doing inner joins. What inner join means is join the two tables together and only show me the records where they match, where there's a corresponding record. So what we're basically saying is show me a list of all the trips and the employees who took them. What about employees who haven't gone on trips? Like the new Volker Gall record that we just added. It's not going to show up. Show me a list of orders and the customers who placed them. What about the customers who haven't placed orders yet? They don't show up. That's by design. That's what an inner join does. Inner joins are so common that the word inner is optional. If you put it in, I am not going to complain, but I don't bother typing it because that's just one more thing for me to mistype. And now what I have to tell SQL is how do I join these tables together? You're the one who knows this. What we don't see in this scratched out entity relationship diagram that's on the board here, I normally also show the fields, the keys and the linking fields so that I know how these things are joined together. Well, if I'm not sure, I can always come down here and say, all right, well, we already know, right? This is a field in the employee table. It's what links them together. It's what they share. It's what they have in common. Remember in Microsoft Access, you had two tables. You drag the field that they had in common between the two to link the tables together. We got no dragging going here. We have to type it. So the fields that the trip table and the employee table have in common is the employee ID field. So we're going to join them on employee ID. I'm going to join, and some people prefer this because it's a little easier to see. I'm going to take trips and join it to employees, and actually since I have employees listed here, I'm going to flip that around. I'm going to say give me my list of employees, join that to TBL trips. Just like my line, right? Yep, just like the line. But you have to tell SQL how to do that. How to join them. Which field do they have in common is what we're basically telling it here. Most of the tables, I want to say all the tables that you're using in your homework assignment, the key field over here is called EmpID, and the linking field over here is called EmpID. You can still see it on the screen. This is in the trips table. They have the same name. They don't have to. But in every single table that you're working with, they do. The linking field and the primary key in the other table have the same name. If they have the same name, you can simply say using, and in parentheses, the parentheses are required, the name of the field that joins them. This is relatively new. I didn't know this until a couple of years ago. One of my students stumbled on it and said, "You know about this?" I went, "No." And it's a little bit easier than the old way. But it can only be used This is just a store in the back of your head for future reference. It can only be used when the table names, the primary key and the foreign key, the one that they link to, have the same name. If they have different names, then you have to use the other technique that I'll show you in a second. It's not much harder, but just a little more typing. Go. Nice. Now we have a list of trips, and instead of those lame ID numbers that nobody recognizes, we got the people's names, and we can see who went where. Collected data from multiple tables. Go ahead.
We have that join TBL trips using inf ID.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of employee ID in there, could you put last name, first name?
No, because that's not what they have in common. Okay, with these two, if you look at the list of fields, you don't have to follow here, I'm just going to show it to you. If you look at the list of fields, there's that one. And unfortunately, there's no easy way for me to show you both at the same time. But there has to be a field in common between this and the trips table. And we already know that the trip table had this, right? Because I had it on the screen a minute ago. You have to join them by that common field. And generally, there's only one. There's only one field that these two tables have in common. What do employees and plants have in common? Take a look at the screen. Not the employee ID, because does a plant have an employee ID? No, but the employee has a plant ID. Why is it there? To link employees to plants. If I want to see who's this guy here, or Tammy, excuse me, Tammy works in plant 4. Which one is that? Well, there's only 4 plants, so maybe if you use this database enough, you'd go, oh, that's Coloma, or that's Polonia, or who knows. You might know that. But why can't I just display the name? I could. So let's try it. Let's do another query. This is where you follow along. Let's select the plant name. And I think we have, let's do a quick search of what's in. You don't have to follow here. I forget what the fields are from TBL plants. In plants, we have a foreman. Okay, I thought it was going to be supervisor. So we have a plant name. So now back to what I was typing a minute ago. I want the plant name and the foreman's name. And I want the employee's last name, their first name. 2 different tables again, right? This can be 6 different tables if you want. I need this and this and this and this and this and this and this. How do you know? A couple of my second-year students in systems implementation have been hired as interns, which means they're going to be working at Skyward as soon as they graduate. And they're getting trained, and they're working with thousands of these squares. Thousands of tables that are all linked together somehow. How do you get your head around it? You work with it day in and day out. And no, you don't work with all 1,000. You have a cluster of 25, 30, maybe 100 that you work with. And after some time, you know it in the back of your head. Right? You don't maybe know all 1,000 of them, but if somebody says, oh, there's another table called this, you go, okay, I trust you. And then what they have to figure out is how they're linked. So it just takes a little bit of time. But these fields can come from anywhere. Anywhere. And then your job is to simply link the tables together. From which tables? Well, my first fields here are from the plant table, so that's TBL plants. The order you list the tables and the order that you join them doesn't matter. If I join trips to employees or employees to trips, it doesn't matter. So the sequence that you put these in doesn't matter. From TBL plants, joined to TBL employees. What do they have in common? The plant ID. Then I can add an order by clause like we had up above. Let's order by plant name followed by the last name of the employee. Notice my order by clause now has fields in it from 2 different tables. I'm sorting by the plant name from the plant table and then the last name from the employees table. Once you've joined them together, you can picture this as one big table. The join lets you share fields from any table that's in the joins. We have joined these, actually we joined those two together, didn't we? Get with the program, Walker. Good thing you can't see it on the recording. We joined these two together just now. Can we join all three? Not till after the break. But yeah. You can join 10, 6, I just said that. And once you've joined them, their field list is like this big conglomeration of all the field lists, and you can use the fields in your order by clause and your where clause. You can do calculations with a field from here, here, and here, and multiply them, add them, subtract them. Doesn't matter where they come from anymore. The key here is joining them back together. Well, why didn't we just make this one big, huge monster table in the first place? Because then for every employee, and imagine a large company, I'd have to duplicate the plant name and the foreman's name and the supervisor's name and in this foreman's phone number. I'd have to duplicate those for every single one. The key to relational database design is removing those duplicates. If we hire a new foreman, I got to go through 1,000 records and update them. Well, that's not so bad today with search and replace. It's a whole lot easier for me to change the foreman here, and now everybody who works in that plant has a new foreman. Done. Change it once. Employee gets married, and we bring up their list of trips, and they're tied in there. Every trip an employee takes has their name and their phone number attached to it. No, too much redundant data. So that's why it's not one big, huge table. This is much easier to manipulate. Once you understand how to join them together, it's as if it were one big table, plus I get that separation. We haven't run this yet. Go. Sorted by Coloma, then by name. Why is this duplicating? That's the foreman. Showing the plant name and the foreman might be kind of redundant, but because we've only got one foreman per plant right now. Okay. But all these people, notice Cloaker, Diamond, Feltz, even me, right, work in the Coloma plant, and they're sorted by last name within the plants. And then we come down here to the Polonias and we start over again. And there's there's Barr and Comstock and Hatcher. So I've now taken data from two different places. And again, I'm going to keep harping on this. I can use these fields as if they were on one big, huge table. So what if I only wanted to see union members? Then I would do this, right? Where union member. Sounds good. What's wrong with it? The order. Good. I need to put the where clause before the order by clause. And notice the where clause comes after all the joins. You join all your tables together to keep things simple. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you have subqueries embedded inside these joins. No, let's not go there. For the purposes of this class, you join everybody together, then you start with your where clauses, and yes, you can do aggregate queries, the sums, the counts, having clauses, you can do all those things. Treat them as if it was one big table. So here I want to say where union member, go. And it's kind of hard, let's see how many, last time I got 51, now I'm down to 42. One more time, once we've joined them together, it's as if they're one big, huge, happy family, and I can pull the fields from any table that I need them from and use them in the where clause, the order by clause, etc. Let's do one more, and then we'll take a break. Let's say that I want to calculate the total salary for each plant. Well, the way you would have done it in the first assignment is you would have said, all right, select the plant ID, because the salaries are in the employee tables, right? And there's no plant name there. There's the plant ID. So we'll start with this. And then the sum of the salaries from TBL employees, grouped by the plant ID. Easy enough. However, again, if I show that to the new supervisor, the new foreman we just hired, they're going, what's with these numbers? Which plants are who, what, where? And if I had 100 plants, it would be even harder, right? So what we really want to do is not group by plant ID, but by plant name. But those are in two different tables. So now I need to join them. From employees joined to TBL plants using the plant ID. Notice when you join these, you always join them with the same fields. There's nothing, these only have one thing in common, plant ID. If I'm joining these two tables, it's always using plant ID. When I join these two, it's always using employee ID. And now I get basically the same answer, but with the names instead of the numbers. This gets back to Volker harping on, I hate it when you go to the front desk and they say, what's your student ID? Granted, it's easier, but do you ever feel like a number when you're around here? What's your student ID? Derek. How many Derek Matuszewskis, did I say that right? Close? Right now, gosh, help me. Matuszewski. How many Derek Matuszewskis are in our database, you think? Probably one. Of course, now you're going up to the desk and they say, what's your name? Derek Matuszewski. Oh, geez. Can you give me your ID number? How do you spell that? But once I look up Matuszewski, I'm probably going to get just a handful of Matuszewskis, and then I find the Derek, click them in. You don't need to know your number. I don't need to know your number. The only time it becomes a problem is if I have 3, 4 Tyler Goodens in the database. Which one are you? My ID number ends in 39. Oh, good, that's you. Click, done. The numbers shouldn't be necessary if your database is well configured. And they can do that. I know they can. Front desk, they ask you what's your last name. They look you up by that. But then they can mistype it. They can misspell it. They look you up by number. They're more likely to find you quicker and get you on your way. That's why they do it. Still seems a little personal to me. We can join them. Any tables. When we come back, we're going to join all 3. Once we've joined all 3, and joining 3 is no different than 2, now we can join 20 if we had that many. We'll do that after the break. Take 10.